I need you to understand something before I start. I'm not the kind of person who believes in things like this. I don't scare easily, I don't jump to conclusions, and I definitely don't make up stories for attention. What I'm about to tell you actually happened to me, and even now, I can't fully explain it. It was October 17th, just after 9:30 p.m. I remember checking the time before I left because I always walk the same route at the same hour. It's something I've done for years. There's a forest trail about 5 minutes from my house, and I've probably walked it hundreds of times. It's quiet, predictable, and honestly, kind of relaxing. That night felt no different. There was no fog, no wind, nothing unusual about the weather. The air was still, the sky was clear, and everything felt completely normal. I started walking like I always do, following the same path into the trees. The entrance to the trail is narrow, and after a few steps, the sounds from the road disappear. It's just the crunch of gravel under your shoes and the occasional rustle of leaves. I remember feeling calm, almost on autopilot. My mind was somewhere else, just thinking about random things, not paying attention to anything around me. About 10 or 12 minutes in, I started to focus again. Not because something scared me, but because something felt off. Not in an obvious way, just a subtle shift, like when a room suddenly feels too quiet. I slowed down a little, looking ahead through the trees, trying to figure out what had caught my attention. That's when I saw it. At first, I didn't even process it as anything unusual. It was just there, standing between the trees maybe 20 or 30 meters ahead of me. My brain immediately tried to rationalize it. I thought it was a tree trunk, or maybe a broken signpost or something left behind by hikers. But something about it didn't sit right. It was too straight, too thin, and too tall. I kept walking, slower now, trying to make sense of what I was looking at. The closer I got, the more wrong it looked. It wasn't textured like a tree. It didn't blend into the environment. It stood out, pale against the darkness, like it didn't belong there at all. Then I realized something that made my stomach drop. It wasn't connected to the ground the way a tree would be. It wasn't growing there. It was standing there. I stopped walking without even thinking about it. My body just froze. The distance between us didn't feel far anymore. It felt close, too close. I remember staring at it, trying to find any detail that would make it make sense. But there was nothing, no face, no features, no clothing, just this tall, elongated shape, partially hidden behind the trees like it was trying to stay out of direct view. It didn't move. It didn't react. But I knew it was aware of me. That's the part I can't explain. There was no movement, no sound, nothing that should have made me feel that way. But suddenly, my chest felt tight, like there was pressure building inside me. And I had this overwhelming certainty that whatever I was looking at knew I was there. Not just knew, it was focused on me. I didn't call out. I didn't take my phone out. I didn't try to get closer. Every instinct I had told me not to do anything except leave. So I turned around. I didn't run. I don't know why. Maybe because running would have made it real in a way I wasn't ready to accept. Maybe because I didn't want to trigger something. I just turned around slowly and started walking back the way I came, trying to keep my pace steady, trying not to think about what might be happening behind me. The entire time I had this feeling pressing against me, like I was being watched from a distance that was closing in. After maybe 30 seconds, I couldn't take it anymore. I turned my head just enough to glance behind me. There was nothing there. The space between the trees was empty, completely empty. No movement, no shape, nothing even remotely similar to what I had just seen. I stopped again, this time out of confusion more than fear. I stared into the darkness, trying to see if maybe I had imagined it, if my eyes had played a trick on me. But I know what I saw. I know it was there. And now it wasn't. That didn't make me feel better. It made everything worse. Because if it wasn't there anymore, then where did it go? I didn't stay to find out. I turned forward again and walked faster. Not quite running, but close enough. The trail felt longer than it ever had before. Every sound felt amplified. Every shadow looked wrong. I just wanted to get out of the forest and back to somewhere that made sense. When I finally reached the entrance of the trail and stepped back onto the street, the feeling lifted almost instantly. It was like crossing an invisible line. 1 second I felt like something was right behind me, and the next, it was gone. I went straight home without stopping, locked the door, and tried to convince myself that it had been nothing, just my imagination, a trick of the light, anything that sounded logical. But then something happened that I still can't explain. Later that night, I checked my phone. I don't even remember why. I think I was just trying to distract myself, scrolling through random apps, and then I opened my step counter. At first, I didn't notice anything strange. The numbers looked normal. But then I looked closer at the timeline. There were several minutes of recorded movement after I'd already left the forest. Not just extra steps, movement. According to my phone, I had continued walking along the trail for minutes after I turned around, to a location I never reached. I stared at the screen, trying to understand it, trying to find any explanation that made sense. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe the GPS lagged. Maybe the app was just inaccurate, but the path it showed was precise. It followed the exact route of the trail, and it went deeper into the forest than I ever did that night. I remember sitting there, replaying everything in my head, trying to figure out where those steps could have come from. I know when I turned around. I know when I left. There's no missing time, no gaps in my memory. So why does my phone say I kept going? I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that shape again, standing between the trees, perfectly still, like it had been waiting. The next morning, I considered going back to the trail. Part of me wanted to prove that it was nothing, that I could walk the same path again and everything would be normal. But I didn't, and I still haven't. What bothers me the most isn't just what I saw, it's what I felt, that certainty. That whatever it was, it knew I was there, and somehow, it knew where I was going. I reported what happened, mostly because I didn't know what else to do. I tried to explain everything as clearly as I could, but without evidence, without anything physical to point to, there wasn't much they could do. The case was closed. Unexplained incident. That's the official explanation. But that doesn't change what happened. And it doesn't explain the steps. Sometimes, I still check my phone, scrolling back to that night, looking at the map, tracing the path it recorded. Every time, it's the same. The line goes deeper into the forest, further than I ever went. And every time I look at it, I get this feeling again. Like something finished that walk for me. If you're listening to this and thinking about going out on a quiet trail at night, just remember this. Not everything you see in the dark is part of the forest, and sometimes it sees you first. If you've ever experienced something like this, something you couldn't explain no matter how hard you tried, tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story gave you that feeling, that quiet unease you can't shake, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because the scariest stories aren't the ones we make up. They're the ones that actually happened.